오랫동안 페이스북의 마케팅을 총괄하시면서 또 페이스북을 세계적인 소셜 네트워크 서비스로 키워내는 데 일조하셨습니다. 그리고 현재는 저커버그 미디어를 설립하여 또 의미 있는 행보를 보이고 계시는 분인데요. 저커버그 미디어 최고경영자 랜디 저커버그님께서 기조연설을 해주시겠습니다. So now let us invite Randy Zuckerberg, the founder and CEO of Zuckerberg Media, to the stage. 큰 박수로 맞이해 주시기 바랍니다.
Thank you. 감사합니다. Thank you so much for having me here in Seoul. I'm really thankful and grateful to be here. It is a real honor to meet so many incredible women who are leaders in the community here. And thank you to the men in this room who are supporting women and women's equality. This is a very important issue all around the world. I know many of you know somebody else with the last name Zuckerberg. And I don't want anyone to think, oh, we only got the sister, we didn't get Mark. So I want to tell you, I want to create my own scene and tell you a little bit about myself. I graduated from Harvard University, which I know is a very obnoxious way to start a speech. I went to Harvard, yay. But my brother did not graduate from Harvard. So go Randy. Now, what most people don't know about me is that my dream was actually to be a singer on Broadway. I love to sing. I got to Harvard and I promptly got rejected from the music major. So I had to find a new direction in life. And that's when I actually found marketing, which turned out to be a very lucky love because that led me to have an opportunity to join Facebook. When all of a sudden, when my brother was starting Facebook, he needed someone who could work in marketing, and look, there I was. He said, okay, Randy, it's time to join me. What he really meant was he needed someone to work for free. And I was his sister, and I was there. But getting rejected from the music major was actually one of my luckiest failures in life, I would say. Now, I joined Facebook. It was a very small company when I joined. We were about 12 people, and when I left 10 years later, we were 10,000 people in 40 countries around the world. But it wasn't clear when I first joined that Facebook was going to be successful. We had a lot of competition. Every country had their own social media platform that was bigger. So when I think about what it was that Facebook did well that set us up for success, there are a few things that I think about. The first is that we launched with a bit of exclusivity. We didn't just open up Facebook.com to everyone in the world on day one and say, okay, here we are, come join our social network. Because today that doesn't really work. There's so many apps and websites out there. There's so much video. It's really hard for anyone to rise above that noise. So we tried a different strategy. First, we opened up Facebook only to a few universities, and then we waited. And we waited for people to say, please bring Facebook to our university. And then we opened there. And we opened very slowly. We made it feel very special to get Facebook. And that was really important for the growth of our company. The next thing we did was we required everyone to use their real name on Facebook. Now, today, I think we're very used to using our real name online, but in the early days of the company, that was not something that people did. People were very anonymous on the internet. They used screen names and handles. And I think we all know what happens when we allow people to be anonymous online. They turn into the worst version of themselves. They engage in cyberbullying. They say hateful things. So on Facebook, we decided that we were going to require people to use their real name, And suddenly, people behaved better when their real name was next to the things that they were saying. So that was very good. But I think the most important thing we did was we focused on our own culture inside the company. We wanted Facebook to feel like every single person who worked in that company was an entrepreneur. And we did a lot of interesting things inside the company to promote that culture. We did these things called hackathons. Every few months, all the employees of Facebook pulled an all-nighter at the office. I know that doesn't sound very fun, but these were really special events for Facebook because everyone would gather at the start of the evening and you had 12 hours to work on a passion project in your heart. And if in the morning, if you were still awake, you could get on stage like this and present your idea to the whole company. Now, what ended up happening is that at every one of those hackathons, there was always one or two ideas that was so good, and it was never from the people you would expect. It was never from the most senior people at the company. It was always from someone really junior in the company, someone coming fresh off of a family leave, someone coming from a different job. All of a sudden, there was this real excitement inside Facebook where people felt, wow, I don't just have to wait for someone else to tell me what to do. I can wait for the next hackathon and I can create my own job inside of Facebook. I have two projects that I made at hackathons that I'm quite proud of that I want to share with you. The first is a silly one. I started an 80s rock music band inside of Facebook. It was all Facebook employees who loved to play music, and so we became the company band. But on a more serious note, I got really interested in the television programs we were watching and these powerful mobile devices in our hands. And I thought, would there ever be a day when we get all of our news inside a site like Facebook? Would there ever be a day when we can watch full television programs inside social media? Now, of course, that was before today when we were all used to doing that. And I thought, okay, at the next hackathon, I'm going to create a television channel inside Facebook. I got in a conference room, I set it up, and I called it Facebook Live with Randy Zuckerberg. Now, it was not very successful. Only 2 people watched, my mom and dad. That was it. And I got so sad that I didn't even stay up the whole night to come on stage and present my idea because I thought it was a terrible idea. And I thought, Facebook Live is dead. But it wasn't, because about 3 weeks later, I got a call from pop star Katy Perry. Katy Perry wanted to use Facebook Live to announce her world tour. And at first, I almost said, I'm so sorry, that's not a real television show. You should launch your world tour somewhere else. But then I thought, what would my male colleagues do? They would want to meet Katy Perry. They would make it happen. And so I said, yes, Facebook Live is a very reputable television show. And that is definitely where you should launch Katy Perry's world tour. Luckily, it went off incredibly well. We had millions of people tune in. Her tour sold out in minutes. And you'll see a picture of Katy Perry coming to Facebook to do the very first ever Facebook Live. From there, Facebook Live became a huge thing. We had so many celebrities, we had sports stars, political stars, movie stars come and want to do a Facebook Live to their audience. We even had small startups in Silicon Valley that I would feature on Facebook Live to help them get some promotion. For example, these guys came onto Facebook Live and I interviewed them. I said, "Hello, what is the name of your startup?" "Twitter." Okay, good luck with that. Well, they did pretty well with it, so good job to the Twitter guys. But Facebook Live suddenly became a huge thing. In fact, I was at dinner with my husband when I got a phone call that the White House was calling because President Obama wanted to use Facebook Live to talk to all of the United States. Even prouder than that moment, though, as hard as that is to imagine, was 1 year ago when Facebook launched a Facebook Live button on every single phone and every Facebook user in the world. That's now almost 2 billion people who use Facebook Live, a little project that I came up with out of my head at a hackathon. The reason that I tell that story is because when I went out to Silicon Valley, I did not think of myself as an entrepreneur. I didn't think of myself as someone who would invent things or create things. I thought of myself as just the woman behind the scenes supporting the men who were making all the big, bold choices. But what I learned from that experience is that when you're put in a situation where you're encouraged to be creative, to take risks, to think in a new way, every single one of us is an entrepreneur. Every single one of us is sitting on that idea that's going to be used by 2 billion people. We just need to create a society and corporate environment that encourages people to bring those great ideas forward rather than keep them inside. So after 10 years of working at Facebook, I decided to leave and focus on my own company and my family. There were a few reasons for that. The first is that I loved working in technology. I loved working at Facebook, but I really didn't love being the only woman in the room for 10 years. In fact, to this day, when people ask me my best advice for being a woman in technology, the best answer I can give is to have a man's name like Randy. In fact, you would not believe how many meetings I got because when I emailed someone, they thought they were meeting with a guy. So it's a little bit funny and a little bit sad that that's still my very best advice to women in tech. Also, right around the time that I was creating Facebook Live, I was pregnant with my first son, and I decided that after working around the clock every single day for Facebook, that it was time to spend some time with my own family. So it was a bit complicated being able to judge both of those. In fact, business is complicated today. A lot of the things that we think about in order to run businesses, the rules have changed in this digital world. For example, every single one of us is a media company now. We have to think about the work we're doing as if we were all a newspaper, as if we were all a broadcaster, or as if we were all putting on a theatrical show. Also, it's a volume game. What I mean by that is you have to take risks and be okay to fail. In this digital world, you have to be able to put 12 ideas out there knowing that 11 of them are probably going to fail, but one of them is going to change your business and change your life. And also what I talked about with creating scarcity. Again, we live in a world where there are so many apps. There's millions of apps in the App Store. You can't just put out another app without having a real strategy of how you launch it. So thinking about creating scarcity when you launch things is very important. These are my sons, Asher and Simi. Actually, I don't know if you can see them, but they're dressed like Mickey Mouse and Pokemon, and they're the loves of my life. They're 3 years old and 6 years old. And they really changed the way that I think about technology in my own life. For example, my older son, one of his friends came over to our house. His friend saw my laptop and said, "Grandpa!" And his mom said, "Oh, we Skype so much he thinks his grandpa lives inside the computer." So that's the world that children live in. My 3-year-old, we were in the grocery store, and he walked right up to a can of vegetables and said, "Alexa, play Mickey Mouse." And I said, "Oh, I don't think that's gonna talk to you." But then I realized that Amazon just bought Whole Foods in the United States, and so maybe those vegetables will talk back to him in a few months. Having children made me really think hard about a lot of the technology that is being developed right now around the world. And it made me think about that technology from both the perspective of what's going to be great about it and also what's going to be challenging. For example, drone delivery is something that a lot of people are talking about. We live in a world where maybe in a few years, anything you order online will get delivered to you on a drone. Imagine ordering something on your phone and 20 minutes later, a drone flies and brings it to you. On one hand, that's really cool. It's great for business. On the other hand, what could go wrong in a busy city like Seoul with millions of heavy boxes flying above our heads all the time? Maybe it's not too late to go work in the emergency room and be a doctor there. I think that will be a career with a lot of stability. I was recently driving on the highway in Silicon Valley, and one of the Google self-driving cars passed me. And I was so nervous, I almost peed in my pants because I thought, that car is going so fast and it has no driver. But then I looked around the road and everyone else was like this. And I thought, none of those other cars have drivers either, and they're not self-driving. So apparently we need technology to save us from technology. That's where we are. I recently saw a headline that Lady Gaga was going to give a concert in space. But even funnier was a comedian saying, "It's always fun when an artist performs in their hometown." So again, it's very complicated. Technology has wonderful things and complicated things. I recently got to check out some great innovation in virtual reality. I went to a studio where I got to experience some virtual reality settings. In this photo, you'll see I'm standing on the floor on a little balance beam, but in my mind, I was at the top of a skyscraper being asked to take a step off the edge. Even though I knew that I was on the floor, it felt so real to me that I was in the sky that I could not make myself take a step. I couldn't do it. And it made me think, on one hand, virtual reality is going to be amazing for medicine, for education, for business. But on the other hand, as a mother of 2 sons who will probably play a lot of video games, I think, what does that do to kids when they're in such an immersive setting of violent video games? What does that do? And so I think we have to be really thoughtful consumers of all of this technology, which is why I decided to take some time and write my book, Complicated, because it really is complicated. At the same time, though, I stumbled on some research which shows that it is around 9 years old that we start to lose girls in technology and science. And so I went back to my publisher and I said, I would love to continue writing my business book, but you have to also let me write a children's book to get more girls excited about tech. So I wrote Complicated and I dedicated it to my sons and all the awesome women they'll work for, like all of you. And yes, woohoo. I published my book on the very same day, dedicated to all of the girls out there to get them excited about technology. recently became a television show which is going to be airing in 30 countries around the world, including, I think in the next year or two, we'll be coming here to Korea to get girls and young children excited about tech. I also run a consulting company of my own now, and I decided to take the idea of those hackathons from Facebook into my own company. We recently did a hackathon to ask, how could we get more children around the world excited about technology, especially girls? And we thought, well, all children love candy and dessert. Is there anything we can do to combine technology and candy to make it really exciting? So, just this summer, we launched a dessert cafe that has a technology theme, and we invited families and kids. When they got to the cafe, they could do things like find a fruit salad and turn it into a musical instrument using wires. I wanted to call it Apple Music, but someone told me that that was already trademarked. Oh well. They could see the dining room of the future. In our dining room of the future, when family members waved their hand over the table, you could play ping pong with people at the table with you, or watch a movie, or learn about something new like the ocean. You could get s'mores, chocolate s'mores made for you on a 3D printer. The kids would come in, they would draw something, and then the robot would print whatever they drew in chocolate onto the top of a cookie. So it was really exciting because that also gave us the opportunity to talk to children about robotics, about all kinds of jobs in tech. We even had robots carrying candy, and the only way that the kids could get the candy was if they programmed the robot to drive across the table and bring it to them. Of course, when candy is at stake, every child will learn to program a robot. Every kid who went to Sue's Tech Kitchen, which is the name of our restaurant, learned to program a robot and code. And they did it in a fun way. They didn't even know that they were learning to code. They just did it because we were combining it with something they already loved. It was very important to me that the name of the restaurant have a girl's name in it, because in the United States, most of the restaurants that have anything to do with tech, with being creative, with being fun, have a boy's name. And so I thought it was very important that any child can walk into a restaurant and associate a girl's name with being creative and knowing a lot about tech. Tech, it's part of all of our lives. I think I've used a Fitbit, an activity tracker. I think that's something probably most of us have experienced. But now, every gadget in our lives can talk to us and give us data. This is a chair that if you're not sitting up straight enough, it will send you a text message to tell you to have better posture. I recently saw Coca-Cola came out with a selfie bottle that takes a photo of you while you're drinking. I don't know about any of you, I have never had the feeling while I was drinking, I wish I could take a picture of myself right now, but maybe the rest of us do, and I'm just the only outlier. I recently heard about a techie nail polish challenge that was going on. This is not the winning one, it's just the one that looked the coolest. My personal favorite is this one, which glistens if you're near an open Wi-Fi network. That way you never have to miss a moment to post on social media ever again. But here's where it starts to get complicated, because anytime that we're developing technology that takes data about our lives, there's always a wonderful side and a complicated side. For example, the ticker watch. I recently saw this. It says it is the happiness watch, which sounds great, right? I want to be happy. How does this watch make us happy? It makes us happy by counting down how many minutes we have left in our life. so that you can really make the most of each one. That to me sounds very, very complicated. If you are afraid of needles at all, you might want to shield your eyes for about 10 seconds because a startup, I guess we don't have our video, but a startup decided on a way to give employees key card access into the office by injecting them with a substance. You don't need a key, and then when you go up to the door just opens when you put your arm next to it. So again, very, very complicated. Why wake up to a regular old alarm clock when instead you could wake up to the smell of fresh croissants and coffee? There's now alarm clocks that will wake you up by odor instead of by sound. Let's just imagine that I'm sleeping peacefully for a few minutes, which never happens because I have 2 young children. But with an alarm clock like iCuckoo, when I download it in the App Store, I have to put in my credit card. So when the alarm goes off in the morning, if I'm tempted to hit the snooze button and sleep a little more, too bad I will be making a donation to charity. So if you're the kind of person who keeps hitting the snooze button in the morning, you're going to be very philanthropic if you're not careful. Let's say I wake up and I need a little motivation to get fit. Well, there's a lot of apps out there ranging from normal to really wild that can help you use technology to be motivated. For example, the Nike app. If you go for a run and your friends click like on social media, it cheers for you in your ears while you're running. But that's okay. Maybe you're not that impressed by that. In which case, zombies. This is an app that puts you in the middle of a game while you're running. You are the last person left on Earth, and you have to run to deliver a message that will save the world. I know, it sounds silly, but I ran my fastest run ever when I thought that fake zombies were chasing me in my ears. But that's okay, maybe you're still not so impressed by that. In which case, I have Gym Shamer, an app which emails all of your friends if you don't go to the gym, telling them how lazy you are. And maybe if you need even more motivation than that, how about this scale that posts your weight on social media? If you would use that, you are a much braver and better person than me because that is the scariest thing I think I have ever seen. But really, developers, they're using technology in all areas of our life to make us healthier, from wellness to fitness to all of the fun activities. But it also leads me to my final point, which is that we have to make sure that we are also taking time to unplug. Because really, we have to remember, as wonderful as these devices are, the fact that we can be reachable all the time and reach anyone around the world, no one ever came up with an idea that changed the world or changed their business when they were always glued to a little screen. So we have to really remember, if you're going to be your best self in life and in business, to take time to put the phone away. Again, here I am with my children. I think my son might actually be picking his nose, and I didn't realize it because I was too busy on my phone. But it's something that all of us as parents have to be thinking about a lot, the proper balance of technology in our households with our children. In fact, there are a lot of apps out there that make me realize that we really need a digital detox. Here are a few apps that people have pitched me recently to put on my radio show. This app is called the Breakup app. If you're in a relationship and you can't be bothered to break up with someone in person, an app can do it for you now. You just click begin the end, and the app will guide you through making a text message to send to break up. There's even apps like the Bro app where you don't even have to put effort into your relationship in the first place. You can just select a few messages on Sunday that will go out to the person you're dating throughout the week automatically. So you don't even have to put effort. See, these apps show me that we've really crossed a line in our society. We really need to think about unplugging and doing more of these things in face. Or how about this app called Run Pee? There is only one use for this app. It is when you are in a movie and you don't want to get up because you're worried you're going to miss the best part of the movie if you have to go to the bathroom. So there's now an app that you can open up and it will tell you, oh, nothing good is going to happen in this movie for 5 minutes, go pee. That's it. That's the only thing this app does, and yet there are a lot of very talented engineers who are dedicating their whole career to working on this. I recently asked people when I was writing my book, what would you give up for a year before you would part with your smartphone for 2 days? 2 days versus an entire year. I was really surprised by what people would give up. Almost everyone said that they would give up chocolate for a year before they'd part with their phone for 2 days. Almost everyone said they would give up coffee for a year. More than half the people said they would give up wine for a year over their phone. But most shocking was that more than half of 10,000 women said that they would prefer to give up intimacy with their partner for a year rather than part with their phone for 2 days. So it's really something that we need to think about as a society. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that my dream, even though I've loved working in technology, was to sing on Broadway. That was my dream. And you probably all forgot about my dream while I was talking, but I didn't forget about my dream. Exactly 3 years ago, I got a phone call from the producer of a big 80s rock musical on Broadway saying, "We saw some videos of your Facebook cover band, and we would like for you to come star on Broadway." So I actually got to, this is me in Rock of Ages, and I actually got to move to New York and star on Broadway after all. Now I produce musicals on Broadway, and I think you'll enjoy my recent musical I produced is called K-pop. It is the first musical on Broadway about Korean pop music, and it just opened this summer in New York City, completely sold out with 18 Asian American actors who are just incredible. So I hope that more of the world can enjoy the incredible music that we have here in Korea. So I figure the only way to end our speech today is with a little song. Look at this phone loaded with apps, Siri and Facebook and Apple Maps. Looking around here you think, wow, she's got everything. I've got iPhones and Androids for posting. I've got a Fitbit that's truly divine. I've got a BlackBerry. No, I'm joking. But I long to live life more offline. I want to go where the people go, bookstores or somewhere that's still existent. There I would meet them and then we would, what's the word? Talk out where they date as they should. Somewhere where Tinder means only wood, out there and free. Wish I could be part of that world. Thank you so much.